Nice.
Hello and welcome to the show, the Positively Awesome Wrestling Show, to be exact. It is yours truly, Jimmy Bay. And if you notice, we are one extra man this week. So I'm skipping Albert this time and I'm swinging it over to Dave Knows Wrestling. Dave, how the heck have you been? And thank you for joining us this week on this special show that we're doing.
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on this special show. It is an honor to finally be here, especially with you, the Drip King, Jimmy. And also, speaking of Drip, I love the Stone Cold shirt representing my favorite wrestler. So that's no spoilers for later, but I do want to point out that's one of my absolute favorites. Anyway, thank you again for having me.
No problem. And yeah, it's a spoiler for mine as well. I am bad about it. But now we can ask Albert, how the heck have you been, Albert, this week? And how have you been enjoying your wrestling?
I've been pretty good. And me three, guys. Me three.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I had a feeling. So I made my list and I went, I got a feeling that mine would be very similar to a couple other people's on here. Because I know your taste, Jimmy. I know Dave's taste. And I'm like, I think we got a couple of ones that are going to overlap a little bit.
I think I might surprise you on one or two of them. But
I know for sure. I know for sure one of mine.
To at least understand the area that we're going to be aiming at.
All right.
I know for sure one of mine is going to blow your mind here.
All right. Looking forward to that one.
This real quick.
Yeah.
And comments, because Harry is in the chat and he is ready to go. Harry, thank you for joining as always.
My man, Harry Flynn.
We are not talking about Nikki Bella, buddy. I think it would be good if we did do a women's one at one point, though. So
we should, we should.
I definitely will bring up because I love the women's wrestling, so I'm all about that.
The problem is that if we ask Harry to do his, it's just going to be 4 Nikki Bella heads.
He ain't making the comments like that. Like, he says hello, Davey.
Hey, yo, Harry.
Love the Jay Gunther. That was a fantastic segment this week on Raw.
Very well done.
I don't know if you heard what Kevin Nash had to say about it, but I thought. He said that he thinks the pressures of being the main event are getting to Jay. He said he's looking like he's put on weight and he's looking stressed and tired.
I don't know about all that.
He likes Waffle House, man. What?
I mean, hey, main event Jay, but not main eventing either night of WrestleMania. Just saying.
It's true.
Courtney says, hey, friends. What is up, Courtney? As always, thank you for joining. And then Ron as well. Hello, Ron.
True citizen, my man.
This is like seeing Vince on Night.
That's what you get when you have me here. I make things happen. I move mountains.
Man, I don't know.
Vince on Nitro is the beginning of the end. This is just the start of the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's slow the roll there, Ron. I don't like that one at all. That would mean this is the final show, and he's just going to buy us out.
Yeah, right? That's it. The name says, Dave Knows Wrestling.
Let me get this up just so I have the exact verbiage. So this week we are doing Mount Rushmore, and I know this is an issue, like a topic that gets kind of played out a lot online, but I thought I want to kind of make it a little bit more exact with the Mount Rushmore because everyone, you ask them their opinion, and you'll have names like Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Roman Reigns. They'll have those. That's the Mount Rushmore, and then you have someone else who's like Kenny Omega, Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, and Shawn Michaels. And it's like those are two completely different styles of wrestlers, so clearly they don't match up. So all 8 of those names are not wrong, technically.
Well, one of them was.
But I figured...
Dave's not a big Shawn Michaels guy.
Oh, he's lucky he's not here. He'd be catching a sweet chin music. I said
Shawn Michaels is not much of a guy, period. So I mean, that's...
Oh, he's a sexy boy.
Because that satiates both answers, right?
So my idea for Mount Rushmore plays out like this. I want one spot for one type of one quality of professional wrestling. One spot will be for the biggest, greatest superstar of all time. An example, Hulk Hogan. Boo Terry Bollea, but Hulk Hogan. The next spot would be your greatest in-ring performer of all time. Popular one here. I'm not going to say his. I think I know who's his. I'll just use the examples I gave Albert in the chat. Kenny Omega, a in-ring performer, just not a superstar level like Hulk Hogan. And then you have a spot for the greatest character of all time, Dominic Mysterio. There's your example, and spoiler alert, made the list. And also,
No.
I'm here to burn it down. And then the spot on the Mount Rushmore will be for the greatest all-around perfect package.
Right.
I won't say CM Punk. There you go. I'll be nice. He's got it all. He can do the in-ring, mic, character, everything. So that's how I want to do it. That way we'll have some names that might not make the list normally. And that's what I was trying to go for here.
Yeah.
And then at the end, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like that one because most Mount Rushmores are just like a top tier list, and that's all that it is. I'm glad that you gave categories. Although I am curious, how exactly did you come up with those examples? I know Albert didn't come up with them.
Dude, Dave knew it immediately. I sent him the text in the exact same way as you sent it to me, and his first thing was, "Cool, I'm down. I know you didn't write those examples, though."
I like to be nice and not just exclude talent that's not WWE, even though most of my stuff is dominantly WWE. That's just how it is. It's not a knock on anybody else, it's who it is. So I wanted to give like Kenny Omega some love because he is really good. And I feel like if you talk about Kenny Omega, you tend to know, oh, he's really good at in-ring wrestling. It's not per se like everything else he does. So that was the example there. Dominic Mysterio, because he's the greatest character of all time. That's a no-brainer. And then CM Punk, because I'm just a mark for CM Punk too. So there was no like crazy thought press going into it. I was just like, I need to give him some examples just so he's crystal clear on what I'm trying to get across. Because sometimes I don't think I'm getting across very clear. And I think I did a good job.
You were good enough without the examples, but I did love the ones that you used.
But that will not be my list. That just to get out of the way. I had to use names that wouldn't be on my list so that I could surprise a little. But
yeah, I didn't use any of them, so me either.
Okay. Not even Dominic.
No, sorry, Jimmy. I'm pretty sure that before I even go through this, Dave or you and Dave can probably both guess what my list is without even maybe one.
Yeah,
I know one on your list.
That one.
I know for sure one, and I probably think two. But we'll get there. I will have a bonus.
Dave probably knows three. I'm pretty sure he's got three of them.
I will say this: there is a fifth spot that I'm going to say for the end, and I'm just going to put you on the spot about it because it's one that I wish I would have added instead of the overall performer. But at the same time, I wanted to include overall performer. So
fair enough.
So it's a late entry, and we'll just sketch another face on that Rushmore because why not?
Sure, it's there already, right?
Get to the comments and then we'll jump back into the show. And it says, looking good, guys. Thank you, babe, as always.
Thank you.
Dave is Vince McMahon and Albert is Vince Russo. I'll be clear here. Hey, I've been called Vince Russo a lot. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and steal that one from Albert. And then Albert can be Shane. Hopefully he doesn't blow both his ACLs during the show tonight.
I'm sitting down. We're good.
To Hogan, Taker, and Austin. I hope that's not your list because they don't make the list based on my credentials, buddy.
All right.
Dave, tell Jimmy the Dom storyline if you talked about it in the stream with Rhea. We'll get to that. I'm curious to hear about it. In case you didn't know, Dave, I created that storyline and I'm still getting paid for it.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Good for you, man.
I think Hogan has a really overlooked and forgotten place, but I also think yes. So as I point out on the Nitro reviews, Hulk Hogan is awesome. Terry Bollea sucks. And that's kind of how I try to view it at this point.
I think they both suck, but I mean that's just me personally.
Hollywood Hulk Hogan is awesome.
Man,
that's where I'll leave it at. Get out of here.
I will say this: Hollywood Hogan and John Cena both made me very right at the end because I spent my entire life telling everybody that they were jerks, and now they've proven me correctly.
No, Ron, I didn't. I have a video that explains it too. It's like a 5-minute quick clip that I took from a thing, and no, I didn't. It's very crucial if you're going to get him to be a babyface in the end. It's the biggest piece. But I digress. To the list. First on our Mount Rushmore list, we're going to go to the most obvious one here, the greatest superstar of all time. That means blockbuster, the draw, the big money man. I feel like the names that are usually on Mount Rushmore lists are the names we're going to use here. But the problem is you got to pick one. You can't rely on all four. So I'm very curious. I'm not. I think we all have the same answer here.
We probably all have the same
Dave,
answer.
You're the guest here. I'm going to allow you to go first. Who is your greatest superstar of all time going on the Mount Rushmore?
Now, I'll say this much. I really, really did very closely consider Hulk Hogan, but I think similarly to you, we're not talking about anything he did in his personal life, but we understand that how much money he made for the industry, how much he changed the industry, it is undeniable. And he did it not just once, but he did it twice in two separate companies. And there are people who want to hate him just because, well, he didn't do it a third time. Well, it's like, come on.
Shame.
I've hated him the whole time.
Right. Well, that's true. You haven't changed your opinion on him. But with recent, and not even just talking about the leaked tape or anything like that, but with the recent backlash he's gotten, you have to take points away from that. I can't keep putting him number one as the greatest superstar of all time when he got that reaction when he wasn't going for it. You have got to take away from him total. And as a result for that, the number one superstar, the biggest draw, the biggest moneymaker. Well, I don't think he's the biggest draw of all time, but I think in totality, he might be the biggest superstar with the most star power. And I think it's the obvious answer, The Rock. You got to go with The Rock on this one as a result. I do think Austin is a bigger money draw than Dwayne, but I do think Rock has sustained being more famous than him. Obviously, the movies help, and he's in the ownership box of the company now. So I think it's kind of hard to fake that. And he's a name that people recognize. And I don't think history has remembered Austin as much. So my answer, Rock.
Wow.
I did not see that coming. I'll be honest.
All right. Well,
interesting.
I will be honest. I did not see that coming. Harry here says his would be John Cena. It's not a bad, not at all.
It's a good look. If you talk about longevity, well, John Cena is there.
My thing is, if you're looking at the four greatest, if that's the one we're doing, John Cena makes that on mine. So it's a very good answer. I'm not against it at all. It's much better than Nikki Bella. But Albert, when I'll swing it over to you, you're going to follow up The Rock. Who do you have as your greatest superstar of all time on the Mount Rushmore of professional?
So what's funny is that I thought that we were all going to have the same answer for this one. And
I thought so too, but I guess not.
So what I immediately thought was about this question is that there are four people that can really be the answer to this. And maybe if you really want to get a little bit deeper into it, maybe five. I would say Bruno Sammartino is on that borderline of being right there. I think that he's just a generation above us. And I think that, talking to my dad, hearing him talk about how Bruno was Hogan before there was Hogan.
Yeah.
But Hulk Hogan revolutionized pro wrestling. And there's no doubt about it. Hogan, is up there as being the guy who got, he basically got you into wrestling, and maybe not me personally, but it was close. He was adjacent to the guy that got me into wrestling, and then after that, it's, I think, Harry mentioned John Cena. I think that he's the more current answer. And then there's the two guys in the middle. And I think those two guys in the middle are Rock and Austin. And it's funny, Dave, because I thought about it for a pretty long period of time and said, man, is Rock the answer? Because of everything you named. He's an owner now. He's, he's a Hollywood blockbuster superstar. He's now back on WWE TV. But I just don't think that there's been a bigger pro wrestler at the height of pro wrestling than Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think that Stone Cold Steve Austin is the penultimate professional wrestling superstar. He got over organically. everything he did is believable. People that weren't wrestling fans knew who he were and wanted to be like him. I don't think that there's any bigger pro wrestler in the history of pro wrestling than Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Well, I'll be.
We'll go right here.
You're shocking me. You started off saying positive things about Hogan, and then you picked Austin. So yeah.
I got like, he's picking Hogan? Wow. He's picking Hogan, and then he's
0% chance of that.
I mean, I was close. Yeah, but Austin, I'm not hating it. I'm not disagreeing with it.
But Harry says John Cena for what Cena did for the Make-A-Wish as part of the. Yeah, absolutely. Like John Cena is huge. I didn't have him on this list until like probably 4 years ago. So he belongs there. Hogan, I get it. The one thing Hogan's done better than the other three that are on the list is he's done it as a babyface, and he's also done it as a heel. He's also kind of elevated two companies to like major. Those are things I look at and I'm like, man, that's kind of, who else could do that? But
two
I
companies,
don't
sure,
know.
but Rock did it as a heel too. I'm just saying.
He did, but when the how many people prefer Rock as a babyface to a heel though?
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I feel like there's still a lot of people who are like, I love Hulkamania, and I'm like, you're crazy. But they do, so I mean, who am I to say they're wrong? He firmly put Austin over Rock, and I feel like Austin had to get. I don't necessarily agree with this, but I do agree with this, which is why I am saying that Stone Cold Steve Austin is the greatest superstar in the history of professional wrestling, and it's pretty simple for me. As much as I just put over Hogan for doing something I don't know if anyone else could do, I do think that at the peak of popularity in professional wrestling, Austin was the guy.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. Nobody in the history of the business, as far as I know or have seen, has got the just pure excitement whenever that man comes out. When that glass shatters, people just lose their mind. And when he tried to turn heel, people were like, no, they didn't want it. They were like, no, we love you way too much. Whereas with Hogan, it was like, yeah, finally, we hate you. So,
thank God.
Yeah. So there was some hatred going towards him there. And that's, I think, my tipping point for who I'm taking out of 1A and 1B is essentially what I've been calling them for years. Nobody was bigger than Austin at the peak, though. I that's just my belief. He's the number one T-shirt seller of all time to this day. You go to any wrestling show, no matter where it's Cleveland, Tokyo, Canada, they have a insert city's name, 316 shirt selling, and they always sell out. He's just the top dog, in my opinion. And again, that's why I'm wearing the get-up. I gave you a spoiler. You saw it coming. You shouldn't be shocked, baby. Stone Cold Steve Austin is the number one on my list.
What?
Professional wrestlers of all time. You heard
what?
Me. You know.
What?
And that's the bottom line. The King said so. So
couldn't agree more.
Good names on this list. Very big, heavy hitters on this list. I'm not mad at it at all. It points out how people rarely match Hogan's ability to draw sympathy. My thing with that, the recent stuff, I think, doesn't necessarily have anything to do. This is my opinion, and I might be wrong. I don't think it has anything to do with him as a wrestler, though. I think in today's age, people have a hard time separating character TV stuff from real life. Like, they go to movies and do it, but they won't do it for professional wrestling, which hurts Hogan right here. 100% deserves the hate. He is a piece of crap human being by all accounts.
But he does have the. I mean, as a wrestler, has been an unbelievable. I mean, was there anybody else that? I mean, and the one thing that Dave points out about Hogan, which I hate all the freaking time, is that Hogan's 6'3", like 305 pounds, and people would he'd get hit, and people were like, "Oh my god, Hogan, get back up!" It's like, dude, like he's a giant, like what? But he just knows how to get sympathy. He really did. He really was good at it.
And when he didn't, he made the switch, and it was perfect. Like he knew how to work the business.
Yeah,
where the money was going. He was very good at it. He had no problem stepping over people to do it, which is a shame. But
doesn't work for me, brother.
He knew how to work the business. He's not an idiot by no stretch of, like, it's just not true. So this wasn't an easy.
Doesn't matter who you step on your way to the top, as long as you don't go back down. I mean, granted, now he has fallen down, so, but you know.
Yeah, really. He's kind of really. He's getting to the point where he's sitting pretty. Here's the thing, though. As bad as it is for what we talk about, man, he still has like he does like autograph signings at his beach shop, and he's got lines down the street every single time. He's still a draw. People still love him despite all that kind of stuff, and that's why. Look, you have to put him in the conversation. There was no.
It's a great comment here. Great comment.
I mean,
yeah.
Let's put it this way: none of us put him as the answer, but yet we're all still talking about him. I mean, that's
true. That's why I had a really hard time not picking him.
I did too.
I really did.
If we're only talking about the greatest, if we're really just talking about like the greatest superstar, the most beloved, I gotta admit, like that's the only reason. His recent reaction, the fact that this current generation just hates him. Like,
yeah,
they either don't know who he is or they can't stand him. Like, you have to lose points over that. And it's also similarly why, even though I do still believe, and I broke this down on my YouTube channel, that, you know, Austin, I thoroughly have commented how he is the biggest money draw of all time. And you can break this down with a lot of statistics. But the only issue is, as you pointed out about the t-shirt, but the only problem is, again, I don't think history's been that kind of his legacy. If you were around to know, old heads know, he was more over than anybody you ever seen. And he's made more money, but when it comes to overall global popularity, more people know who The Rock is than Austin. And that's really the only reason I went with The Rock.
For sure. And I think this is a difference in just how you're viewing it and how I'm viewing it here, because I don't think you're wrong. He is, as far as like a bigger superstar globally, The Rock's there. And I don't incorporate the movie stuff into it. I stuck strictly into the wrestling world. And Rock was there for like 6 years, like during his run, and then he's just showed up every once in a while. I think that's just me, though. Again, there's no wrong answer. That's just that's why I don't include The Rock. But he is probably the biggest name in the history of professional wrestling. And then we can move on to the next spot on this Mount Rushmore. This is the one I am the most interested in hearing about, because I don't think there's any chance that all three of us have even close to being the same answer.
We should.
Who had the nicest ass? Wait, no, that's not one.
Billy Gunn, obviously. He's an ass man.
That doesn't mean he has the best ass.
No,
he's
but
an ass man. He enjoys a good ass. That's what ass man means.
He doesn't like his own. Yeah.
No, that's fair. Well, it seemed like he liked his own.
And he was following Billy Gunn around, so I would assume Billy Gunn has a nice one. That's my logic there.
We all came up with these answers way too fast.
Next one. The greatest in-ring performer of all time in the history of professional wrestling. And again, we're not including anything else. So Cesaro could be in this, because as bad as he is at everything else, he's fantastic in the ring. And that's just an example I'm using. I'm not throwing Cesaro under the bus here, or Claudio, whichever you prefer. Billy just liked that. Yeah, that's what I was like. That's why he was an ass man.
No, but Ron was right. Billy showed his butt all the time too.
But you are what you eat.
Anyway. Well, I clicked the wrong one, but there's Harry's choice. He has AJ Styles. There was no question about that one. I knew that's who he was going to pick.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Billy showed his butt. So
it's
this
nice
time,
when your favorite wrestler's still wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Yours is still wrestling, Albert.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Wait, what are we talking about here? You of all people should know who my answer to this is.
Right. No.
We're about to find out, because we're going to Albert first this time. So, greatest in-ring performer of all time. Albert, the floor is yours for the second spot on our Mount Rushmore.
I don't think that there's honestly, I know that people are going to bring up a lot of really good names, but in my opinion, I don't think there's even I don't even think there's a competition at this point. There's a lot of people that are recency bias will throw out names like Zack Sabre Jr., Bryan Danielson. Some people will bring up names like Kenny Omega and CM Punk. Some people will talk about AJ Styles, and even back at his peak, Harry just mentioned Jericho. I think that there was an argument at points in his career that Jericho was up there too, but I don't think that there has been. Definitely not now.
2019 somehow.
I would have Jericho more on the overall performer instead of the ring guy. Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about the best technical wrestler of all time, the best wrestler of all time, the person whose style has influenced the most people currently right now, I don't think there's anybody who's influenced people more than Bret the Hitman Hart. I think Bret Hart is hands down the best professional in-ring performer of all time. And it's hard for me to not even put him into the category of overall, and his promos do take it down. But the one thing I will say about Bret's promo work is that he was always believable. There was never a point where you ever thought that whatever was coming out of Bret's mouth was disingenuous. At any point, he didn't believe every single word he said, and I love that about Bret. But in ring, I don't think that there's anybody who's influenced more people in ring than Bret Hart, and it's even in the little things. Notice how when Drew McIntyre throws a vertical suplex, he kicks his other leg up when he throws it. He credits that to Bret Hart. The way people hit backbreakers are the exact same way as in stance. In every other way, it's Bret Hart. There is, in my opinion, there's nobody better, nobody more emulated, and nobody who has more impact than Bret the Hitman Hart.
I will argue he doesn't get the shout outs that Bret does, but I do think RVD has influenced today's wrestling quite a bit.
I absolutely do agree.
I don't think RVD is better than Bret Hart, but I do think he's had a significant influence on today's wrestling. That's just a name I'll drop. It looks like he froze real quick. So, Dave, we'll swing it over to you until Albert unfreezes here. Greatest in-ring performer of all time for your Mount Rushmore. Who do you got?
There are a lot of stances that I could have taken on this one, and I did think about this. I did think about Kurt Angle as a really solid choice. We may be talking about Mr. Olympian again later, but I did think about Kurt Angle, and a lot of guys that I think don't get the same amount of praise. But I thought about Dean Malenko as pure in-ring wrestler. I think Dean Malenko is a really strong choice. Nothing else, just pure mat technician. Dean Malenko, I think, is fantastic. Same thing with a lot of other guys that don't get the credit. Marty Jones, Mark Rocco, Billy Robinson, Dynamite Kid, you could go on and on, the original Tiger Mask. But the one reason that I didn't go with Kurt Angle is there is a minor blemish on this list, and we're going to the greatest of all time. You have to have the squeakiest clean record that you possibly can. And when you look at Kurt Angle, there was the moonsault where he injured Bob Holly. And the difference there is Bret Hart never seriously injured anybody in his career, and safety, as far as I'm concerned, in-ring wrestling ability and safety are not separate. They are very much in tandem with each other. And so how safe you are, it's not just doing the moves, but doing them safely and being the excellence of execution. So my answer, I agree with Albert, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Smart man.
This was no shocker to you, I'm sure.
He jumped in just in time to hear you say, Albert was right.
That's what I'm throwing to him. And just said, Albert's right. Yeah.
I do have to point out that Kurt Angle was probably number 2 on that list too.
Yeah,
it was very hard for me. I just think that for me it was a lot of recency bias, I guess too. I think Bret's just more influential overall.
It's the moonsault for Holly was really the big thing for me. Kurt Angle is a gold medal Olympian, for crying out loud. It's hard to argue against that, but the safety thing. Kurt Angle doesn't have a history of being unsafe, but one incident, when we're talking about the greatest of all time, that's enough to take you off. You can get voted off the island for one thing.
So comments, and then I will come in and not do the clean sweep here.
It's very easy.
He's trying not to say, Sean, hey, I feel you're wrong.
I
feel you're wrong. It's not easy.
Are you kidding me? Don't Stasiak was not that good, bro.
What's the match, Harry? Is it Austin? Tell me it's probably not. It's probably Owen. Heel Bret was cooking. And I think Heel Bret was the person. Everyone credits Austin and all that to kickstart, Attitude Era. I think it was Heel Bret that kickstarted Attitude Era, and he never gets that credit. And I think that's wild. And this is coming from someone who's not a Bret I don't really care for Bret at all.
Right?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. When I came into WWF and became a WWF fan, Bret had left, and I was a WCW guy before that. So Bret came into WCW, and I transitioned to WWF. So I never just really got into him. I acknowledge that he's fantastic. I'm not going to ever say that. And like I said, I just said he deserves all the credit in the world for kickstarting the Attitude Era because he did. It was the cage moment where he shoved McMahon to the ground. I think he was the first person to put his hands on McMahon.
He was.
So he deserves more credit there. This is a great shout. Hennig is good in this regard.
Hennig, yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
Owen. I knew it. But
Owen's up there too. I know that like a lot of people don't like to throw him out there. I think, but Owen's also up there too. I think if Owen lived longer and had a longer career, I think he'd be much more inclined to be on that. On that
sample
list.
Size.
I'm taking away from Kurt Angle because of a moonsault. Yeah, Owen's not making my list.
So he mentions Kurt Angle, and I'm gonna just go ahead and drop Kurt Angle as my choice for the greatest in-ring wrestler.
I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah. I do know accident. Like I'm a guy. Accidents happen. I defend Nia Jackson the same way. She's hurt people, and I'm just like, well, it's wrestling. It's not a ballet. Like so, but when I think of wrestlers that I watch and I'm just simply in awe of because of what they can do in that ring. Nobody tops Kurt Angle, in my opinion. Like the intensity in which he performs, the smoothness, it just became so effortless to him. And he picked it up so quick. And I know he's an Olympic gold medalist and all. We've had other Olympic wrestlers come in and not take to it like Kurt Angle did.
It's true.
And it wasn't even just the wrestling. Yeah, like everything he did was pretty damn fantastic.
You can put Kurt Angle on that overall list just as easy as anybody else too.
It's why him and Sean have been 1 and 2 on that list for me forever. I think they both have all every aspect of it there. But Kurt Angle, just the insanity in which he performed in that ring and fearlessness, intensity, everything. He's the complete package. And I think people can't really emulate what he was doing in the ring today because they're just not that good.
Yeah.
I've gone as far as saying that I think Kurt Angle might be the greatest athlete of all time after watching the documentary they released of him 2 years ago.
Oh, my God.
I don't know who you could really put up there as far as just like athletic ability. There's probably some names you could argue, but the fact that he's up there is incredible. And I just personally... watching sports and everything since like 1991, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody just with that kind of ability. So yeah, Kurt Angle is my greatest in-ring wrestler of all time. So far, we're gonna repeat. So anybody that just joined us can catch up with us. On my list so far, I have Stone Cold Steve Austin as the greatest superstar of all time, and Kurt Angle as the greatest in-ring wrestler of all time. Then we'll go down the line. Albert, catch him up on.
So mine is Stone Cold Steve Austin for the greatest of all time and greatest in-ring Bret the Hitman Hart. One of the best feuds of all time, too, throwing that out there.
Absolutely. One of the best matches of all time. Everything.
Going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was denied, I was denied a good proper program between these two. But Bret and Rock, I believe they did wrestle, but it was like a match no one cared about.
Yeah.
Maybe once. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so far, greatest for me is greatest superstar is The Rock, greatest in-ring performer, Bret.
And if they didn't wrestle, it was Bret that stood up for The Rock when he was getting bullied by DX members, those punk asses.
Yep.
Back in the day. So he kind of helped and saved The Rock there, and then a little bit of an aspect. So I think he got better as time went on. I'm assuming this is Hennig you're talking about, and yeah, I remember when I saw Hennig. If he's talking about Kurt Angle, yeah. But when Hennig superplexed the Giant in WCW, I was mind blown. Oh, how did he just do that and bridge? That is insane. Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
And he did it in WWE again, too, like years later when Big Show was bigger and Hennig was, not in his prime.
Was he bigger, though? Because the Giant was out of shape in WCW, and WWF made him get in shape. So what is he bigger?
But he was also younger and leaner, though.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Because he was like 23. A lot of people, like his first
he was super young.
He was WCW champion of all time. He was 23 when he won the belt, if I'm not mistaken.
Just looks like a grown ass. It's like he has the earthquake disease of looking like a grown ass man when you're in, like,
There you go.
5.
He wrestled Rocky Maivia on Raw.
There we go.
Tassels on his arm, and Rocky Maivia was horrible.
I have a vague memory of that match, Harry. And that's why I said it. Like I vaguely
was-
remember that Rocky Maivia Brett match, but that's why I said like a match, like a proper program, because like, I vaguely remember it, but it doesn't. I would love to see that, but it doesn't stand out in my mind. And like I still remember Brett versus Randy Savage. Before Brett was Brett, like it was like on
Saturday's main event.
Yeah, before Brett even broke off from the Hart Foundation. So I still remember that. So I remember like random Brett matches, but like
he worked Savage's ankle in that match. Savage ended up without his boot on it by the end of it, and that's also the match that triggers Hulk Hogan to come out and form the Mega Powers because Honky Tonk Man joins them and to beat up on Savage.
Yeah, see, like it's a random like Brett's rolling. It wasn't significant, but it stands out to me. But like for that Rocky Maivia match, I might have even rewatched it, not even like maybe a few years ago, and I still can't remember it. I remember nothing about it. I barely remember that happened. It's like, is that a fever dream or did that actually happen?
I remember so many random Bret Hart matches, and I think that's the reason why I put him like on my list as being the greatest. Like even his match in the Boston Garden, like in '88 against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Again, Bret's not a singles wrestler at this time. He's wrestling, he's in a tag team with the Anvil, and he has this random Boston Garden match. It was on the Coliseum home video, the Hart Foundation Coliseum home video, and I wore that match out. Like before, like knowing really like what I was watching, I knew that was something special. It's the same thing with Savage and Steamboat at WrestleMania, which, by the way, I'm just going to point out, Steamboat doesn't get enough credit as being one of the better in-ring guys, too.
Absolutely not.
We dogged him on that one, but
I since you brought him up, I'm going to ask a simple question. Do you, because I think of Styles when we compare guys of today to yesteryear, I think Steamboat and Styles are the comparison just because of how crisp, clean, and kind of perfect to execute everything. I think that's who AJ Styles is the modern day version of. I think he's a modern day Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, actually, I like that comparison.
It's not bad, but I still can't get over what you were saying about the smoothness of it, because I do think there are some times where AJ can't drag everyone kicking and screaming. Where like Ricky, like the big one for me is always, and I know it's cliche for everyone, but the arm drag for Ricky is that you think it's the person taking and doing all the work, but Ricky made everybody look exactly the same when he took it, so it has to be him. Yeah, and like the weirder part of it is, it's like even when he at WrestleMania 25 with Jericho, even when he was like 102 or however old he was at the time, he still did it, and it was like, how are you doing this still? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And so,
I just saw him get physical like 2 years ago on Collision during the Punk and Starks thing. So, like,
the crazy thing is that Ricky Steamboat, Ricky Steamboat at that time though is probably younger than Billy Gunn is right now, who's still actively wrestling. It's the craziest thing in the world that every time I see something, I think it's now the Billy Gunn test. Are they younger at that time in their career than Billy Gunn is right now? And it's like, for the most part, it's mostly like, how is Billy Gunn still in this good of shape and still wrestling at this age? It doesn't make sense. Billy Gunn's
matches are significantly easier to perform than most of those other guys as well.
Very fair, but
that
still
plays a lot into it. And he's in incredible shape.
Several like age things freaks me out. Like Bob Orton was wrestling in his 70s and he was using the RKO as his finisher.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is like Hogan was only 39 when he signed with WCW, and like they were calling him the Huckster and all that. But if you think about it too, like I'm not sure, but there's a shot that they're very close in age, that Hogan, Hall, and Nash, when they formed the NWO, were all younger or around the same age as Finn Balor is now.
Yeah.
I think probably younger. Definitely younger.
I think they're a little bit younger. But that's the advancements in modern medicine. Like,
and people pointed out this too also in the live stream. Forgive me, I don't remember who in my live stream on the YouTube channel, but that AEW is, if not done it, I think it might have been Harry who pointed out that AEW Dynamite is about to surpass Nitro in number of episodes.
Yeah,
next
week. Crazy.
I think it's next week.
It's crazy.
Oh, okay. Let's swing it back to our third spot on our Mount Rushmore. And this one is the one I'm interested in hearing. This one.
This is the one where I don't know anybody's answer.
That's good, because this is the one that's probably going to shock you from me, because it's not Dom. Greatest character in the history of professional wrestling. Is that how I put it? Yes. Greatest character in the history of professional wrestling. Harry, I keep calling you Harry, and I apologize. Dave. I coincide you because he talks about you in the chat a lot.
Dave. I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you.
He's a big fan.
I'm a big fan of yours too, Harry.
Dave, greatest
Yeah.
character in the history of professional wrestling on your Mount Rushmore. Who do you have? And I knew this one was going to come up.
Tough call. Again, this is Harry just said it. That's my answer. You got to go with the Undertaker on this
Wow.
one. This is another one where Stone Cold just barely got beat out for me, but yeah, I got to go with the Phenom on this one. It's especially because you said the greatest of all time, so I can isolate any specific moment. If we're looking at the career, I'm not a fan of the Underbiker. I never have been. I don't want to keep rolling. I'm good. And there's a lot of stupid nonsense to this day. As far as I'm concerned, he had the night off at WrestleMania 30. That never happened. But yeah, easily for me the greatest character. He's just so cool. And like I remember like when he debuted and everything in the beginning, especially when the lights went out and the bell rang, like 6-year-olds would cry. Like, I mean, that's amazing. When you have a business that has an actual boogeyman that doesn't scare children half as much as that guy does, and also being taught by the spoiler, learning how to do the old school walking on the rope, a guy that tall, everything came together in a great way that was just truly freaky. And the whole thing with his manager, Paul Bearer lifting up the urn and getting him up, rising up, and the sitting up and everything. Perfect character. Could not have been casted better, and was perfect up until a point, but perfect for a very long time. So nonetheless, got to give it to him. That's my answer.
Albert, next up, greatest character of all time on your Mount Rushmore. Who are we going with?
This is the one where I didn't think I was going to agree with anybody, but it's the Undertaker, right? Like
wow.
It's the Undertaker, and
It has to be.
And there was a point where I was.
Were you debating over anyone else, or was it just clearly going to be the Undertaker from the get-go?
So I thought about it for a little while. And there was a part of me that I wanted to include. I wanted to put Great Muta on the list.
Okay, that's a great
in this category because I feel like he was that character in Japan, and then even his evolution, the idea where he would take off his paint and he would wrestle as Kenji Muto, and then he would put the paint back on, he'd wrestle as the Great Muta. He would then transition into the mask. I think that character wise in Japan, I think that the equivalent to the Undertaker in the States is the Great Muta, and I wanted to make it the Great Muta, but man, there's just nobody in the world. And the reason why I think for me is that the idea of the Undertaker's character is so dumb.
It is.
Like it's really dumb. Like it's kind of a really dumb thing. Is he dead? Is he alive? Is he undead? Is he a zombie? Like, what does it even mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, Paul Bearer makes sense. Like, oh, okay, he's Paul Bearer. Like, he buries people. He works in the funeral. What does the Undertaker do? Like, is he digging graves? Like, what is and why does he look so sleep deprived? And why? None of it makes. I guess maybe. No, I worked in a cemetery. You dig graves during the day.
There are two things that make even less sense about it. Is number one, if he has all these magic powers, why is he wrestling?
Yes.
And number two, people. Why did he do it for money? Because DiBiase, what, did he pay him to introduce him? Did DiBiase find him and decide to buy him? Is that how this works? When you remember that.
It's a very strange thing, and in no way should that have worked. And then not only does the Undertaker look, and I know you want to talk about somebody else who's fallen off in popularity because of views and stuff like that, but not only has the Undertaker created the Undertaker character, but
he's making coffins. There was even segments about this. I remember that.
I do remember that too, but it's even still that
promos on people making coffins.
Yes, even still though, it didn't make sense to me. Was he making his own? Was it for other people? It doesn't make sense. But Undertaker was such a popular character. They gave him a fictitious brother and made him a monster star who went on to have multiple title reigns. And then not only does Undertaker launch that, but there's no Mankind in WWE who has one of the most prolific WWE careers if it's not for the Undertaker and that character. Like, there's just so much that comes out of that person and that personality, and then to put it on top, it is the most over-the-top, ridiculous character that no one should have made work, and he made it work flawlessly. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. Just a shame he didn't have a match at WrestleMania 10, WrestleMania 2000, or WrestleMania 30. So weird.
You brought up Kane, and I think Kane could have been one in this category had they not ruined him halfway through. I think they did. horrible damage to the
character. The unmasking really. The unmasking at first was kind of cool, and then after that, it was like, come on.
I was never a fan of
the why he only shaved like part of his head. Like the other half, he still saw stubble, and I'm like,
he just has a bad hairline.
Yeah, that was.
You just have a terrible bad hairline, dude. You're not ugly. What are you talking about?
Just do what I did, and you're gonna be fine.
But when I think of like character introductions, I think Kane has the coolest one, in my opinion. And Undertaker plays a big role in that. Undertaker's a very popular and easy answer here. I'm not saying I'm probably more wrong than you guys are, but I'm picking a different name here, and it's because of things that I've noted. Like I went back and I'm going back to watching wrestling. I've done some 80s wrestling, and now I'm currently doing the Nitro stuff. And then his retirement last year, and Sting.
I mean,
and when I think of it, is you took points away from Kurt Angle because he hurt someone on a moonsault. I'm taking points away from Undertaker because of the biker gimmick. The transition from Undertaker to American Badass back to Undertaker was not a smooth one for me. It was like, what's going on here? It's okay, but what? And with me,
the only reason, but as I mentioned, the only reason I did that is because we're talking about specific character. If we're doing a career-long retrospective, then I absolutely want to take him.
I think Undertaker himself has said that the biker gimmick is one. It goes with the Undertaker. Like it's not just like a different gimmick he did. It was like a transition, and I don't get the transition.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah,
it doesn't make sense to me.
If you do look at Undertaker's evolution, there was a point where before he kind of introduced the biker gimmick, he was coming out kind of dressed like that a little bit, like when he was in his tag team with the Big Show. There was a little bit of a transition, but it just never made full sense. He never changed. Right, he never changed the way he wrestled. He never changed his gimmick. He never changed.
I loved the Undertaker's gimmick prior to that. And then it was like such a culture shock to me. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's still American Badass, but it's like, it's not that for me. And with Sting, I think he's gone through changes, but all his changes have been very seamless.
Yeah.
And to go as long as he did, and credit to AEW for this one. They helped make this choice possible for me. The retirement was really beautiful.
They did a great job.
Made me kind of look back at Sting and say, man, he never gets included in these lists. And that's kind of wild to me. He was WCW.
Because the Joker thing never happened, huh? All right.
I'm more offended. I'm more offended by Wolfpack's thing than I am Joker's thing. I'm going to be completely honest.
Remember when they helped him against Triple H?
That was and I think the worst part for Sting's career, in my opinion, is when he was in WWE.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think they completely stopped. I don't think that's on him. I think that was on how they utilized him. And I just look back at things, and again, going back watching the Surfer Sting stuff, which I was never like, I never saw it growing up.
It was so good.
I saw like the end of it, the tail end of it, and then I go back and watch it. I'm like, man, this is really good. The fire he has as a babyface is really fantastic.
God, yeah.
And then now I see the transition from the Surfer Sting to the Crow Sting, and I'm like, this makes sense. Like he's hard, like it made sense to me. And again, this is the seamlessness of it, everything. It's a perfect career, and he was Sting the entire time. And at no point in time did I think he wasn't Sting. And I can't say that about Undertaker because I was like, yo, that's not the Undertaker one. And maybe I should have been more specific when I was saying it, like as far as career wise and all that. But I mean, if you would have gave me someone who had a 3-year career, that's fine because they played that character fantastically.
Opinions are opinions, and I don't look for me. I just don't know if they. Like I said, I wanted like the Great Muta was the one who like jumped into my mind, and it's funny you mentioned Sting, who's one of his biggest rivals. I think that like it's characters like that who can stand the test of time, that have a longevity to them. I think that are special because I mean, how many guys start as one thing and then they're completely something different by the end of their career? It's crazy to see.
It's insanely hard to do.
Chris
Jericho is a person who does a really good job of transitioning too. People say he plays the same guy all the time, but that may be true, but there's still different iterations of it. So, and I think Sting did that just better. That's how I look at it. And this is a good point with The Undertaker. He wasn't using the tombstone as American Badass, so it's like, that's right. Not marrying people no more. Don't even call yourself The Undertaker, partner.
And
Sting
what
made
also
not talking effective. Yep. It was.
something else that also doesn't make sense if you think about it is that clearly it must be the Brothers of Destruction's mother that they get their height from, because according to canon, Paul Bearer is Kane's father.
Yes.
So that means their mom's got to be like 7 foot tall. You can't teach that. So I mean,
She's
really
an
think
Amazon,
about it, the more you think
Amazonian.
about it.
And the more then you really think about it, she looks very. What is it, like an Addams Family situation with Morticia and like Gomez, like that's a very weird height difference, like in the new that new movie or
She was
show
able
with.
to wrap her legs around Paul Bearer twice.
I don't think it was in '96. I think it was a little later than that, Ron. And we were just me and Nick were just talking about it last week on the Nitro review because
Paul was too rotund for that, Dave. But so it's War Games '96 that's when it happens.
Yeah,
it's War Games '96. I know it for a fact because that's Sting was the one who was that's the fake Sting.
right. Oh, I remember it like clear as day too.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when I rewatch it.
Yeah, it's 100%.
I don't really remember it, but
it's War Games '96. It's the NWO who they tease a fourth member, and then it's Sting, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's Sting!" And then real Sting comes out, and everybody was like, "Wait, there's two Stings."
Okay, so it wasn't Sting that was teetering on the heel thing. It was just NWO. It was an NWO ruse.
Right. That's the
okay.
Yes.
I think it was 98, 99 where Sting really was a heel, but it was very small. It was short-lived.
There was like a small section where it was terrible that they did that.
Russo was on something.
The major thing I hated about it, I love it, but the one thing that's like to me sad about the whole '96 War Games match though is like even though I was like a teenager, you felt like a little kid watching Blue's Clues because fake Sting. No, that's the fake Sting. It's the fake Sting. No, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What is this dude? Like yelling at the TV like a toddler.
And the crazy thing is that like Jeff Farmer as the fake Sting goes on to have like this monster career in Japan as fake Sting. Like it's his most known like gimmick. It's like nuts. That's how popular. We're going to talk about that. You actually, Jimmy, we talked about how Undertaker spurns, and makes another character. I mean, fake Sting was like, he was in the video games and everything like that.
They were still using it in AEW too. They were really still using that whole crap in AEW. So, but yeah, that's mine. It was crazy to think about me picking Sting over the Undertaker because for years and years and years, I've always said Undertaker over Sting. But hey, AEW did a really good job of kind of putting it in all perspective for me.
They did do a really good job.
Yeah. So
yeah.
But now we're on to the final spot on our Mount Rushmore, and this is the whole kit and caboodle, the complete package. And I'm not talking about Lex Luger. Sorry, buddy. We're talking about the wrestler who has it all. They can go on the mic. They sell. They're big superstar. All the above. If I'm missing anything, you can fill in the blanks. That's what we're going for here. The greatest all-around performer in the history of professional wrestling for the final spot on the Mount Rushmore. And Dave, as our guest, I will let you take our final spot and kickstart us on this journey.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is definitely a hard one for me. There's so many different directions I talk about. Yet again, bringing him up, but like with Stone Cold Steve Austin, he's a wrestler that after the neck break, very different guy. But when you look at his earlier stuff, he was a really good technical wrestler. I still think he's one of the best sellers of all time, and I don't think he gets a lot of credit on that one.
Agreed.
And his just ring psychology, the way he plays with the crowd, I thought he had the right look. We're talking about total package. And of course, mic skills, I think he's absolutely one of the very best. I will also put Roddy Piper close. I think Piper doesn't get a lot of credit for his wrestling ability. He has a great amateur background. He's very, you can see that he actually wrestles. He even wrestles Mr. T. And also CM Punk, I think, is someone else that I could bring up too. But if I got to go with the overall, my answer is your Olympic gold hero, Kurt Angle. For all the reasons that I mentioned earlier, I don't think there's anybody who is as good in ring as on microphone. And also your boy too, Randy Savage, I gotta admit, was pretty close for me. But I will say Kurt Angle, final answer, greatest overall wrestler, Kurt Angle.
Just to touch on the Austin selling thing, I think anybody who wants to, if you question it, I think you're stupid. But go back and watch Royal Rumbles and tell me who does a better job of selling every single thing in a Royal Rumble. Because you see it all the time. Someone gets hit from behind and then they go off to someone else and the person doesn't sell anything. anytime Austin was touched while he was in a Royal Rumble, that thing got sold. Whether it was a slap upside the back of the head, someone just bumped into him, he was selling his ass off all the time. Like, he is one of the greatest sellers of all time, or bumpers, whatever people want to refer to it as. And when he was selling an injury, like, he did an amazing job with it. So I'm glad you brought that up, because he is top notch. And it was something I noticed when I was doing the Royal Rumble watch backs this year.
Even one thing I got from him, and it's like something he picks himself apart about, is that just knowing when to stay down and how long to stay down.
Yeah.
It's not enough that you took the hit, but like stay down longer. Like count. And it's like, again, this is something that even in my limited experience, even I've adapted because I'm like, this is, how Austin would roll. Like counting your head, like 30 seconds, like stay there longer. And it's like, there's no crime in staying there longer to sell it. You don't have to get up to do the next thing. And that is something I think a lot of wrestlers today don't do. Just stay down,
Yeah. His selling, I think, is what created so many big time superstars during the Attitude Era.
I mean,
just them all over with his selling.
We're talking about the WrestleMania match going into the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's Austin selling with the blood in his face and all that. That's Austin selling. Like, that's what made the whole thing. It's not Brett putting him in the sharpshooter, and not you talk about how much I love Brett. It's Austin's selling of that particular moment that makes it the biggest WrestleMania moment probably in WrestleMania history.
All right.
Just for me.
Albert, who do you have? I know who you have. Just go ahead and spit it out.
Oh, yeah, the Macho Man, Randy Savage here, the cream of the crop. That's right here. The greatest professional wrestler on the planet here. There's nobody. Macho Man Randy Savage got me into wrestling. Macho Man Randy Savage was my favorite wrestler throughout his entire career. There was never a point where I did not believe that Macho Man was the most badass, coolest person on the entire planet whenever I saw Macho Man on the screen. There was something about seeing someone who was so flashy and flamboyant, but at the same time was so manly and rugged and arrogant, and like he had everything that you wanted to be. Like he was allowed to go out and wear pink and orange and these crazy colors. Look at him at Royal Rumble 1990. He is wearing like a baby blue with floral print going up with a headband on, and there's nobody that can look like manly in that except for the Macho Man Randy Savage. Like, it's nuts. And then the idea of him coming out to Pomp and Circumstance, the entrance is great. Miss Elizabeth by his side. The giant sunglasses, the raspy voice. He cut amazing promos. He was an amazing wrestler. He was a work rate guy before the words work rate guy existed. And he was still a great character on top of all of that. I just don't know if there's anybody more well-rounded that I've ever seen in my life than Macho Man Randy Savage. Even his WCW run, where he couldn't be as good as he was in the ring, he knew exactly what to do and how to maximize every minute that he was in that ring to make him look like he still had it just as much as he did, even though we can tell. If you really watch, you can tell he's lost a step or two. But if you're just sitting there and you're watching it for the first time, like, man, did Macho Man ever lose a step? He's unbelievable at everything he does. And I also think that a lot of people's careers suffer because they stay around for too long. Macho Man, when WCW, before WCW ended, Macho Man was like, I'm done. He comes back for that one very brief cup of coffee in TNA where he has a match where he throws like 8 punches and then blocks the sunset flip and wins. Like, you know what I mean? So but he knew when to cut it out. He knew when to stop. He knew when his career in the ring was over. And I don't think he sullied his legacy at any point either by staying around for too long. He distanced himself from the business completely. And I think that made his legend grow even more. And you talk about The Rock, mainstream success. I mean, Bonesaw in Spider-Man. He's iconic in
Slim Jim.
Exactly. The spokesperson for Slim Jim. Still to this day, he's known for so much. I'm going to stop because I'll talk about him for the next 6 hours.
Real quick.
We talked about the honor of Macho Man having Slim Jim, but it was really the other way around. Macho made Slim Jim famous.
Yes.
I'm saying, like, the Slim Jim thing was huge because to this day it's still a thing.
And Warrior was first.
That's crazy. Just to point this out, I don't think it was people that hated Austin. I think they just hated they couldn't cheer him anymore, and because once he turned babyface again, they were like, finally. It was never any point where they like, we hate this guy. That's what I take from it.
It was the wrong time.
Seth
But I
Rollins
also
is
think
manly.
Luke
No,
also was a heel before he turned babyface. Before WrestleMania 13.
yeah.
I should thought he was on top as a heel too.
Right.
Seth Rollins is not manly. Harry, no, he's not. He's wearing Becky's clothes, and we know it. It's not manly. Sorry.
That's right. Macho Man has a rap album. Macho Man has a rap album.
Maybe Rich is the man, so maybe it is manly in that sense.
Clearly, he liked Team Madness. Team Madness was awesome. That was him and DDP was one of my favorite feuds of all time. And then, did you like WCW's Piper, Dave?
Not really. I mean, I didn't hate him. I didn't hate him or anything, but not really. I thought
WCW messed up a lot of the veterans in that aspect.
Yeah.
His disc was wild. Yeah, on that rap.
That's what I'm saying. The man has a rap album. What other wrestler has a rap album except for John Cena?
I don't know if that's an endorsement, Albert.
I
know you have, but
did you listen to Be a Man? That's a classic. That should be that song should be in the Hall of Fame.
I'm more of a Kurt Hennig rap kind of guy.
Texas Rednecks wrote that song.
By the way, great song too.
All right,
I know all the words to it. I hate that I know all the words to it.
So with that, I will close out. I'll close out our fourth spots on my Mount Rushmore with the greatest overall performer of all time. And I think it's great that Albert brought up Macho Man because he's third on my list. And then Dave brought up Kurt Angle, who is 2 on my list. And now I'm about to break his heart because at number 1 and the final spot on my Mount Rushmore goes to Shawn Michaels.
Oh,
because he's just a sexy boy.
Oh, no.
A boy toy. I love everything this man does. It's biased 1000%, but I don't think there's a single hole in this man's game. And he knew when to use, he knew when to perform this way, perform that way. He hates it, and it's fine. Shawn Michaels.
He goes multiple ways in a lot of fields, I'm sure, but I don't think wrestling is one of them.
Yes. And for him to have 2 Hall of Fame careers separated. We talked earlier, Hogan is the only one that could really bring 2 promotions to the level they were at. Who can have 2 Hall of Fame careers separated like Shawn Michaels did?
I argue that Shawn Michaels' second half of his career was even better than an initial run.
Absolutely, because he wasn't a prick anymore.
Yeah,
it was much easier to work.
Right. He did business.
Yeah, losing your smile is code for blowing your paycheck up your nose.
Well, I mean, and that's why. But look, I also think that's so. I think that it's funny. I think that there's a lot of people who look. I know Dave's not a big Shawn fan. I'm in the middle of both of you guys, literally and figuratively. I don't dislike Shawn as much as Dave does. I also don't like him as much as you do, Jimmy. But I will say this about Shawn. I think that there's a point where if Shawn retires in 1998, I don't even know if he gets even talked about in like the GOAT conversations. I don't even think he gets mentioned. I think that run coming back, I was at Survivor Series 2002. I watched him win the world title that night in Elimination Chamber. That pop was ridiculous. It's an absolutely unbelievable moment.
I would say probably 90% of the greatest matches he's ever had all came in his second half.
I agree. I think it's funny.
A lot of that had to do with the fact that he finally had talent to work with that was closer to his level than prior.
Well, he had Brett before that. I mean,
he had Brett. I'm not outside of Brett.
I got it.
Outside of Brett. No, not Kerry. Everybody needs a good dance partner, man. Everybody needs a good dance partner.
I mean, he worked with Austin. He worked with Undertaker, Mankind. I mean, he had good opponents. I think he had better opponents later on. I mean, his match with Jericho, Angle. Yeah, I think he was. Yeah.
Notice the common denominator here. All his matches are good when he goes against people who can really wrestle.
I'm not saying he had bad matches. I'm just saying his greatest matches were against people because he was ahead of the time. No one was wrestling like Shawn back then because of his size and his athleticism. Brett was wrestling a different style. Who was wrestling like Shawn when Shawn was wrestling in the 90s?
Marty Jannetty
was wrestling. Who?
Ballerina.
Who?
He said ballerinas. I said Marty Jannetty, but I mean that's just because
Yeah, no, he could wrestle, and he could handle his stuff a little bit better.
Not really. Look at him now.
I'll take that I'll
he
take
can
that as a
stand
badge
those-
of honor. If I made him vomit, I'll take it as a badge of honor.
Yeah, I've never gotten it whatsoever. I mean, like, I could attack his wrestling ability all day, and I probably will, but I'm actually doing that on another podcast coming up soon. But the thing to me, though, that I always question is the Shawn Michaels promos. It's like, what is his most memorable thing? It's him losing the smile. Other than that, like, what do you got on it? He's not. I don't think he's good on the microphone.
The DX stuff, and I think that's a lot of Triple H influence too.
That's my point too. It's like
Triple
most
H
of the
wasn't
DX
shit
stuff they
when
got
Shawn
over
Michaels was
all after he
DX the
left.
first round.
Was
It was Shawn carrying it.
Triple H had a lot. Triple H is a lot funnier in those. Go back and watch those promos. Triple H is funnier.
Triple H was great when Shawn wasn't there. I'll give you that because that's my favorite version of DX, 1000%. But when it was just Shawn and Triple H, no. Triple H
go back and watch those promos. It's Triple H that has all the funny lines about Sergeant Slaughter. It's Triple H who has all the double entendre stuff. A lot of it is Triple H. It is. And look, I think Shawn was great too. I'm not discounting you, Jimmy. But a lot of that the promo thing for me is where Shawn takes a little bit of a dip for me because I just don't think that. Just the same as I put Brett in my category as a great in-ring performer. Brett's not the greatest promo either. Like I said, Brett's very believable. He's not the best promo, but I take Brett isn't in this category for me because of that. And I think Shawn suffers in that same area too. I just don't think he has. I don't think he has like a very memorable, like Dave said. I don't think that they're like some of the DX stuff, but it's with other people. Give me a solo one Shawn Michaels by himself promo that everybody remembers.
To counter what you're saying now, though, if we're talking about, for me personally, since it was my choice, there are not many promos I look back on that I can remember that person and like that specific moment. There's not that many for me that I can go back and look at. Obviously, the pipe bomb, the 316. I only know of the hard times because I've heard about it so many damn times.
Cream rises to the crop.
The cream of the crop. That's right.
There's some that I remember, and if you refresh me, I'm like, oh yeah. But none like really stick out. So I can't count the fact that I can't remember one specific promo that HBK cut against him because I can't really do that with many people.
But to be fair,
think he was better at literally everything else than the people I would. That's just me.
It's your opinion. I totally respect it.
The distance between him,
be right or wrong, but I appreciate that you tried.
The distance between him, Macho Man, and Kurt Angle is very, very, very small. It's not like he blows them out of the water. It's just not gonna. That would be silly for me to say. It's just.
I forgot that I picked Kurt Angle right now.
It's so Harry, you constantly praise Nikki Bella. You have no room to talk here. And this right here is just blasphemous. Get out of here, man. Ugh. There's a lot of comments, but I gotta skip them. Because we have one more we're gonna do.
Harry mentions Brett's best promo. There are a lot of really good Bret Hart promos, and one of the best ones is the one when he was a heel in Philly. I mean, it's one of the best promos ever. Yeah, that's my thing. That's my thing.
I remember Eddie promo more than those two.
Eddie, let me tell you something. Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah,
Eddie Guerrero should be
deserves a mention too.
Definitely deserves a mention on this list because you want to talk about somebody that was overall great at everything. Character too. You can argue that you can put Eddie Guerrero on that character, just as easily because Lie, Cheat, and Steal was just as over. It's still being emulated. I mean, we just saw how many people do
on this list. There's
that spot
on this list that I could make arguments for. Mine's just a personal preference. I'm biased all the time. I literally tell you Dominic Mysterio is the greatest of all time across the board at everything. He's not on Mount Rushmore because he has his own Mount Rushmore where it's just Dirty Dom across the board.
It's 4 pictures of him.
I mean, the crazier thing with Dom is that it's like it was kayfabe and we all know it, but we rather him act like Eddie than act like Ray.
because he's not Ray's kid. But I did say we had one more surprise entrant on this Mount Rushmore. Right. We're going to etch something in stone. I will tell you what it is, and I will go first since I clearly had time to think about it more than you guys did, even though I did just think about it today. But I want to know who your most underrated professional wrestler of all time is that goes on this Mount Rushmore. I want to make it semi-quick, and I will just go ahead and say it now. This is a guy who would never get any recognition ever, and I'm glad that I've concluded this just so that I can give him some praise. Who better than Canyon? Nobody. This is a man. The Mortis thing is iconic to me, all on its own. And I'll flat say he's not a guy who's ever going to be a main eventer. But I'm also of the notion that just because you're not a main eventer doesn't make you not great. I understand there's levels of things, and he was never going to break that glass ceiling. Just wasn't going to happen. But man, if you want to talk about someone who innovated today's wrestling, Canyon, that's a guy who people still to this day when someone doesn't move now, they're like, man, that's crazy. And then you go back, you watch Canyon in the 90s, he already did it.
Yeah.
He was constantly coming up with new moves and innovative, and it was amazing. And I really hate what WWE did with him. I think it was shameful, and I miss the man. I could go back and watch any Canyon match. That's just how much I like him. And I don't think there's anybody that gets on the underrated list that deserves to be on there, because a lot of people will say people are underrated and they're not. As far as the names that I think are really truly underrated in the business, I don't think anybody tops Canyon. And I'm creating the 5th spot on a Mount Rushmore for that man.
That's fair.
Hey, Albert, you're up.
Dave, do you have yours?
Yeah, there's a lot of older names that I couldn't mention that I mentioned before, but who I've always said though was always Booker T. I know he's won a bunch of world championships, but I always thought Booker T was, like, in WCW, he was excruciatingly overlooked. I thought, until Russo decided to give him the belt. I mean, the guy was in the company for 13 years and never got squat. And so again, I understand that he's gotten a lot, and he won world titles in WWE as well. But at the same time, when you mention the greatest of all time, or even the most well-rounded, and we just did that, I mean, who brings up Booker? But the guy could fly. Yeah. He could do martial arts. And I'm not a big kicky guy, but he was able to kick. He was able to technically wrestle. He could hold his own. He could do power moves. And then he beefed up to go in the world title division. You know, like Will Ospreay gets all this credit because, he bulked up weight. It's like, yeah, well, Booker did it first. And he's adapted to pretty much anything you wanted. And he was always there, but no one ever brings him up as the greatest of all time, which I think is very odd.
I like that nod, because Booker's one of my favorite people that I got to watch the trajectory from tag team guy to television champ. Like he was I think the last one in WCW that kind of went through that. And for him to make it out of that invasion angle nonsense that they completely buried everyone and come out looking better on the other side is a testament to how great he is. Yeah. I love your answer. That's fantastic.
All right. I think I've kind of wrapped my head around it enough, and this would probably change, but I really think that
sorry, Dale,
a guy who doesn't get enough credit and someone who I don't understand. I guess I think we kind of know this is gonna ignite Dave again, and it's gonna piss you off, Jimmy, too, because I'm gonna say something. No, I'm just saying because I know that I'm gonna mention the name, and you're gonna say it's all Shawn Michaels' fault. Why his career was probably ruined. And
my screen pillow.
But Shane Douglas.
Muted and booted.
Shane Douglas, for me, is I think probably the most underrated wrestler in wrestling. I think that his work in ECW was unbelievable, and he could have got into either WWE or WCW at that main event level at that time and held his own with every single person there. There is not a match in the world that I wanted to see more until it actually finally happened because of how long it took and how badly it was booked. Then Shane Douglas versus Ric Flair, because hired from WCW, goes to ECW, rips Ric Flair apart on the microphone every chance he could get, and I was like, that was like my introduction to like the idea that like other companies can actually mention the other companies, and I was like, is he allowed to do this right now? This is crazy! Like it blew my young mind. And for years, Shane Douglas would, be this, stalwart in ECW. And I kept thinking to myself, this was Dean Douglas in WWF? Like, what? And I really honestly believe that gimmick held him back too. But Shawn disliking him and like immediately curtailing his gimmick in WWE really hurt him. It was great, in my opinion, for his career because he went to ECW and really found himself even more. And he was really able to become an even next level better heel. But I really think that when he came into WCW, there was some money left on the table to make him a big guy, to make him a top player. And I feel like they touched on it. They did like the franchise match with him and Sting. I feel like there was a lot of like points where they touched on it, but he never truly got to the level where he deserved.
Did he get injured, and that's what kind of killed his momentum in WCW?
It's a possibility, but I mean, it's hard to remember.
I remember him getting. I think he broke his wrist.
Yeah,
it was.
The one thing I will say, Shane was very injury prone. He was very even like he wrestled hurt like 75% of his world title run in ECW.
I'll say this: he was probably my third favorite part of ECW.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. It's Rob Van Dam. Like Rob Van Dam, I want Rob Van Dam to be my answer, but he won the WWE Championship. Like he won the ECW title. Yes, it was a WWE ECW, but he does get it. He does. I think a lot of people like his place. He's in the Hall of Fame, right? You know, like Shane Douglas isn't, and I feel like that's a travesty.
I'll say the best thing Shane Douglas ever did was a movie called Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies. It came out in 2014. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It is a gem, baby.
I've seen clips.
It has Kurt Angle in it too. It
does.
It does. And then I want to touch on this real quick. Didn't like the scissor kick. You like the bookend more. I liked the top rope front flip leg drop.
The Harlem Hangover.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, there you go. That was beautiful. We just got to the point where Harlem Heat is a big part of Nitro on the Nitro review, and I'm like,
they were unbelievable. Talk about underrated. If we did one for tag teams,
yes,
underrated. One of the most underrated tag teams. Like people don't mention Harlem Heat, and I don't know why. They were so good.
Adding it to the list, females, and then tag teams, and then
I like it.
We could managers is an easy one. So I think we'll probably stay away from that one. But yeah, we're gonna add those to the list because why not? But that is the show. I like everybody's answers. I don't like the shit I got, but that's part of the game, and that's okay. So, Dave, before we say our goodbyes, is there anything you would like to let everyone know as where they can find you, or just any final words you have?
Well, yeah, first of all, I had an excellent time. Thank you so much for having me on this program. But also, if you want to check out more of me, go to my YouTube channel, Dave Knows Wrestling. Leave a like for anything you like, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And thanks again. Wonderful time.
Thank you very much for joining us. It has been a blast. Again, except for the being shit on. But I expect it. I get shit on all the time. I'm an idiot fan. Albert, is there anything you'd like to say to anybody before we say our goodbyes here today?
If you guys are smart, you'll go watch Dave on his channel. You'll go watch the Nitro reviews with Jimmy and Nick because they're freaking unbelievable. I mean, both channels are a great walk down memory lane and a great, and Dave covers, kind of covers current pro wrestling. He's forced to watch it.
Guilty.
Dale, this is like WCW pay-per-views. Just that's all.
It's ECW's Dismember to Dismember and 3 WCW pay-per-views.
Halloween Havoc 95 I just watched, and I'm enjoying Nitro, and then we get to Halloween Havoc 95. I'm like, what is this shit? And
is that the Yeti?
It just reminds me back in the day, like, oh yeah, that's what WCW did really bad. They always
is that the Yeti? Is that what Halloween Havoc 95?
Yes, and there's a part where the Giant and the Yeti are hugging each other with Hogan in between, and they're like vibrating and gyrating. I'm like, what?
Yeah, the double bear hug. I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, but yeah, that's that. And I will say, thank you guys for watching. If you're listening to us on Spotify and you haven't yet, make sure you follow us and rate us because that would be super duper awesome, cool, and we'd love it. And as far as the Friday Nitro review, make sure you're with us tomorrow. We're going to be doing that, myself and Nick the Geek. It's the post Halloween Havoc Nitro. I'll be touching on Halloween Havoc to start the show off because, again, it was a mess.
Atrocious.
And I'm being a lot more critical on that show than I ever will be on the Positively Awesome Wrestling show because I like to try and be nice, but I am not going to be nice about that show tomorrow. So join us if you want to hear that, or if you just really like WCW, we'd really enjoy you. So with that said, thank you all for watching. Thank you once again, Dave, for joining us. And we will be back next week with a new show. Toodles.